Your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. An extreme hot weather spell is sweeping over parts of Australia and is heading our way. It's set to bring elevated fire dangers and late this afternoon has even led to the declaration of a severe heatwave for part of the east coast. For more details on the developments, our reporter Ruby Kemain joins us now live. Good evening, Ruby. We knew the hot weather was coming and the forecast certainly reflects that.
Joe, that's right. The temperature forecasts for some areas of the state have been elevated, with the heat expected to build over the coming days. Weather forecasters are now predicting a top of 35 degrees in Hobart on Friday, while the Upper Derwent Valley could top 37 degrees. The hot conditions have even seen the declaration of a severe heat wave over parts of the east coast and a low intensity heat wave for other areas. We spoke to the Bureau of Meteorology earlier today on what's driving the hot spell.
Yeah, the same weather pattern that's been building heat over South Australia into inland New South Wales and over Victoria as well is basically the same heat that we'll be getting on Friday, just brought down by northerly winds. It's likely come Thursday we'll be issuing a fire weather warning for Friday for parts of the east and south of the state, with fire dangers likely to reach severe in many places in the southeast.
Many Tasmanians may swelter in that heat. It doesn't compare to the extreme conditions in South Australia. Some parts could reach an unbelievable 48 degrees, which has forced authorities there to issue a code red alert. But Joe, forecasters have reassured there is a change coming to Tasmania early Saturday morning, which should bring some cooler conditions here.
As Tasmania's budget takes a $280 million hit due to national economic turmoil, our state's booming housing market is also playing a part. Experts say the government is getting record amounts from stamp duty, but a slowdown in the number of sales is threatening that bounty.
A hit to the state's bank balance on the way. A $280 million cut to our GST announced by the federal government yesterday, threatening to impact the lives of everyday Tasmanians.
This is why we have been very prudent in managing our finances over the course of the last 6 years. You can never take anything for granted.
Promising not to cut frontline jobs or increase any taxes. Labor says it will have to make up the money somewhere, saying it's got its own strategy of how to deal with a loss.
What would be in that strategy though?
Well, we will launch a comprehensive economic strategy in the lead up to the next election, but ultimately this is about the government. They are in government.
To further prop up the budget, the government has long relied on state-based revenue, including stamp duty.
The last 4 years, we've actually recorded the highest amount in total value of property sold in Tasmania ever. So the government is getting record stamp duty amounts.
But as the housing crisis continues, there's a critical lack of the number of homes on the market, meaning less numbers of houses being sold and impacting that stamp duty bounty.
We have a gap, a huge hole in our market for about 2,000 to 3,000 homes. And until those homes get built, there's going to continue to be demand.
And it's demand that's not expected to ease up anytime soon. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
An extra 400 families will be offered a roof over their heads over the next 4 years as the benefits of an historic housing agreement begin to roll out. Earlier this year, the federal government waived Tasmania's housing debt, freeing up $150 million to spend in the sector. It's been announced today the first round of that money will be spent on an extension of the Community Housing Grants program and purchasing 12 new homes for social applicants.
We need more housing, but if we are just commissioning new builds, we won't see them for a couple of years from now. So we need a mix of things that provide longer term supply. They give us the best value for money.
What we would hope to see as today is some quick announcements, some targeted announcements, but it also gives us an opportunity to think about more innovative responses.
It will also include expanding the private rental incentive scheme to assist an extra 25 households. 2 women who were involved in separate vicious attacks on elderly men have been sentenced. Tara Jane Lewis and Kylie Herlihy will both serve jail time for their crimes. Letitia Wallace has more.
Both women appeared in the Launceston Supreme Court today over separate violent home invasions that occurred earlier this year. Tara Jane Lewis and her two co-offenders broke into the home of a 76-year-old man in Fingal in March. The court heard the man was assaulted in his bedroom. Justice Robert Pearce said you were looking for money while violence was taking place. He described the attack as premeditated and planned, and that the victim was a vulnerable man who had been living alone for 20 years. Kylie Herlihy was also sentenced over a separate and unconnected armed robbery in South Launceston in May. A 75-year-old man was viciously attacked in his home by a group of people. The court heard Herlihy didn't assault the man but stood over him with a sawn-off shotgun while others searched for cash. It must have been terrifying and traumatic. In both cases, the victims have suffered ongoing psychological and physical impacts as a result of the assaults. Both women wept in court as Justice Pearce sentenced Lewis to 3 years jail, while Herlihy received 4 years, 3 months behind bars. Both will be eligible for parole after serving half their sentences.
Tasmanians struggling with Parkinson's disease will now be able to access a life-changing treatment locally. The therapy, which replaces tablets with a small pump, has already received a glowing review from its first patient.
Parkinson's disease has ruled over Lynn Elliott's life.
I had a watch that went off 16 times a day to tell me it's time to have medication.
Those days are over thanks to advanced therapy now on offer in Tasmania. The 77-year-old is the first patient to receive a special pump, replacing the mountain of medication she had to take.
Since we've started this advanced therapy, her life has been changed dramatically and she's been able to do many more things, have much more confidence and live a much more normal life. So it's been fantastic for her.
Parkinson's tablets can become ineffective over time. The new treatment solves the problem by administering a drug called duodopa into the intestine.
Having a medication that works consistently during your waking hours that enables you to be able to walk and do all the things that you love in life is life-changing.
You just felt different. You just felt alive.
The new treatment is expected to help roughly 6 people a year, and while that number might not sound like much, it means those patients won't have to travel interstate.
Not that Lynn expects to sit still.
It's good. I've bought myself a little gopher and I'm going to be off running around the town.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian children dealing with literacy difficulties will be given an extra boost of support from next year. A new pilot screening test is set to be rolled out across the state to identify issues such as dyslexia early.
This may look like a colourful game, but these Year 1 students are practising some vital skills. Today, Rosetta Primary School getting a taste of new testing to aid their literacy.
It's going to provide an opportunity to really have early identification of children who are struggling, and potentially that means early identification of children with dyslexia.
Up to 20 Tasmanian schools have already signed up for the National Year 1 Phonics Screen Test pilot next year.
Phonics is the reading, sort of the building blocks of reading and spelling, so it's really the letter-sound correspondences. It really looks at 20 real word and 20 nonsense words and sounding those out to identify where the child is at.
And it's all very much part of our ultimate aim, which is to have 100% literacy across our Tasmanian community in the years to come.
And it's not just the students predicted to gain from the 5 to 7 minute one-on-one test.
To look at students' data, which includes their phonic knowledge, and then work together as a team, trialling different strategies to improve students' knowledge and also strengthen it.
Next year's pilot testing will determine the implementation of a full program in 2021. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
Around 30 boat crews are preparing to set sail along Tasmania's east coast, with Triabunna announced as the destination for an upcoming national race. The past 3 SB20 Australian Sailing Championships have taken place on the River Derwent, but it's hoped the change in scenery will provide more challenging conditions.
We get a bit of swell in the bay. Obviously you don't get a lot of swell on the River Derwent. And that will be good training for people going to the Worlds in Portugal next year, which is sailed in the big swells of the Atlantic.
The 3-day race kicks off on March 7. In the wake of 3 quad bike related deaths in Tasmania this year, a new safety campaign is being launched. Authorities are pleading with Tasmanians to stick to guidelines which they say could save a life.
Bikes on their side, a confronting image on Hobart's Parliament lawns.
This is reality, this is what happens, you know. The number of fatalities associated with these things, it's about 50-50 between bikes rolling over and being crushed underneath them and people not wearing helmets.
A new campaign reiterates the critical importance of wearing a helmet, having adequate training before riding and not allowing children to ride bikes which aren't suited to their size.
To try and get people to think about what they're doing when they're riding quad bikes and take some precautions to look after themselves.
While they're effective for work purposes, they can be fatal. Tragically, this year, 3 people have lost their lives while riding them in Tasmania.
Since 2011 to 2018, there were 128 fatalities across Australia. Significant impact on the community and on families.
WorkSafe Tasmania offers a rebate scheme for workplaces on crush protection devices with up to 50% cashback available, now calling for businesses to get on board.
I'd like to see it improve. We've had about 54 applications made against the rebate scheme, but there is further work to be done there.
Because they can be a very useful tool on a farm and they're fun to ride. But we just want people to stop and think about the consequences if things go wrong.
Changes which could make a world of difference. Louise Hedger, 7 Tasmania News.
2 new wine festivals have launched in Tasmania, both aimed at demonstrating the strengths of the local industry. In February, over 2 days, the Botanical Gardens in Hobart will host the Tasmanian Wine Festival, with a focus on the state's whites and sparklings.
You will take a journey through the gardens, vineyards, foodies and entertainers will be dotted amongst various locations, and you'll have the opportunity just to wander and enjoy.
In May, the Tamar Valley will come alive with a new event called Vintage Tamar 2020. More than 20 cellar doors will welcome visitors with the opportunity to bottle your own wine and partake in special masterclasses.
There's a huge thirst, pardon the pun, for knowledge about wine and what makes wine good, and people are really seeking to educate themselves. So this is really just trying to aim at what consumers are wanting.
Tickets for both events are available online. A man who's made an empire out of creating pyjamas has met with excited fans in Tasmania. Peter Alexander stopped by the Launceston store today to take photos and sign autographs for customers during the busy Christmas rush.
You know, from Launceston to Darwin, from Sydney to Perth, I seem to have slept my way around Australia.
It's the first time Peter has visited the Northern store after it opened 5 years ago.
South African batsman David Miller has returned to his happy hunting ground in Hobart. The new Hurricanes recruit will bat in the middle order in Friday's Big Bash clash, but who will open remains a mystery.
This time last year, it was David Miller's day.
And a wonderful 100 there from David Miller off 95 deliveries.
That day, he dealt a knockout blow at Blunston Arena, but now he's on our side.
I've been playing back in South Africa, and things have been going pretty well. Been sort of given my role, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Miller's locked in to bat in the middle order. He says he's happy there. His only exposure to the Big Bash until now has been highlights packages.
There's a huge hype and buzz around it, so really keen to get over here.
Ben McDermott will lead the side in Matthew Wade's absence. Despite being overlooked for the national squad, McDermott says there are no hard feelings.
I don't want to hold any grudges or anything like that. I'm just going to go out and play like I normally play. It's sort of the first time I've captained a T20 side, so a little bit nervous on that front.
And there's no call yet on whether Caleb Jewell or Mac Wright will open the batting alongside Darcy Short.
It's probably going to be a bit of gut feel, I think. They're both performed reasonably well for us in one-day cricket. Both have got a century this season.
The squad flies out tomorrow for its season opener in Alice Springs.
And the Tasmanian Summer Racing Carnival is starting to heat up with the running of the Conquering Stakes in Launceston tomorrow night. Hell of a Street is one of the favourites heading into the $100,000 race, paying $3.50 to win.
He's only having a campaign in Tasmania this year. That's his lot. So he'll go to the Conquering. Siggy Carr will ride him there. Jason Maskill won't be able to ride him, so Siggy gets her opportunity. And as you know, Tegan's rode him all his work most of his life, so we've been keen to get a girl on his back.
The gelding is one of 3 from trainer Scott Brunton lining up, along with Count Da Vinci and Mandela Effect. The Conquering Stakes is scheduled for 7:40 tomorrow night at Mowbray.
Good evening. Ouse, Fingal, Cressy and St Helens all on our top of 29 today. Hobart 22, Launceston and Burnie 24, Devonport 18 degrees. Temperature started to climb above average, but not so much over the northwest or the coastal areas. Friendly Beaches 24, Lyowini 23 and Smithton 22. The Bass Strait Islands into the low 20s, Low Head and Strawn 18. Low-level cloud over the west and north coast, just light drizzle this morning over the west. That cleared quickly. Patchy cloud developed during the afternoon. Low cloud also over southern WA with thunderstorms over central areas there and also further north over the tropics. Tomorrow, several troughs sit over the mainland, while a very unusual pattern called a col will establish over Tasmania. A col is like a saddle or neutral point, where we'll be in the middle of highs to the east and west and lows to the north and south. So with that strange pattern, we have confusing wind directions tomorrow, but mostly up to 10 to 15 knots and to 20 knots over the east and south. Hobart 28, partly cloudy, Geeston the same, and 29 the top for Bothwell tomorrow. Launceston, fine, partly cloudy and 28 degrees, 22 the high for Devonport with a possible shower, partly cloudy for Cressy. Burnie tomorrow, a high of 22 with a shower or 2, partly cloudy for Strawn on 24 and Curry on 28 degrees. And for St Helens tomorrow, cloudy and 27, one warmer in Swansea and Orford, 26. UV sitting in the high range tomorrow. On Thursday, a fine day expected with west to southwest winds. The predicted hot weather will be due on Friday, not so much over the northern half though. Strawn 32 and Hobart 35. A big drop in those numbers on Saturday. Strawn 15 degrees cooler, Hobart down to 23 with mostly cloudy conditions. Sunny in Perth, 42 in Adelaide, a late change moving over Melbourne. Hot in Canberra, hazy over Sydney and a cloudy 29 in Brisbane. Bit of cloud over Hobart, 18 at the moment, partly cloudy in Launceston, 19 degrees and 18 in Devonport at the moment. That's the way the weather is, Joe. The predicted heat wave for Friday will only be short-lived by the looks.
That's good news. Thank you very much, Murph. That's all from the team for now. Thanks so much for your company. Bye-bye.